Welcome to Crime Files TikTok compilations, where real horror lives. Every clip drips with truth. Every scream echoes from the past. These aren't tales, they're evidence. Step inside the vault of murder, madness, and mystery, where the footage doesn't lie, and what you see can't be unseen. These aren't stories, they're warnings.
You are trying to make me do things that I don't want to do.
He kidnaps and tortures rapists. His 63-year-old grandfather used to live a peaceful life with his family. But everything changed the day his granddaughter was attacked. The man arrested already had a dark past, but justice let him walk free. So the grandfather made a decision. If the law couldn't protect the innocent, he would. One night, he tracked down the first one, a man who thought he had escaped everything. He followed him, caught him, and put him in the back of his car. There, the grandfather tied him up. Hour after hour, he made him face the same fear and pain he gave his victims. The man cried, begged, but no one heard him. When the body was found, rumors spread. Someone was hunting the monsters. For some, he became a hero. For others, a criminal. And his story divided the whole country. Don't forget to like and follow for more stories like this.
This is the update that nobody wanted to hear. As 19-year-old Dakara Thompson, the lady who went to the gas station for a quick stop, she has been found unalive on Route 50 and a dead Shaw and Anna, Runner County. And this right here is the ass person who unalive her. They call this ass and the rest of them. He is being charged with first and second degree murder. His name is Hugo Hernandez. He is 35 and hopefully 36 don't appear. No parent should have to go through this. So, I'm sending my condolence to her, to him, and everybody else who is affected by this tragic. So they say surveillance shows the Caratoms are getting into a black SUV early that morning, and that lay right to that man house. So investigators believe the man unalive, the car inside the bedroom, wrapped her up, put her in a car and then drove away and dumped her body miles away. So, here's what I want to know. Did she know this man? Was this a random attack? Or was this a setup from the start? And I'm also hearing that this man had prior arrest, some of the Jones that could have kept him behind bars. So my question is, how was he out? And if he never got out, this would have never happened, right? Once again, RP to Descaratom.
Last week, this couple was found dead in a car just days before their first wedding anniversary. And now speculation is soaring about what happened to them, so here are the facts. On October 6th, an officer in Harvard, Illinois, noticed a car pulled over on Route 14 with its hazard lights on. So the officer got out to help, and when he approached the car, he found a horrible scene. 29-year-old Rachel and 30-year-old Brandon Dumovich were found dead inside the car, both with single gunshot wounds. And a gun was recovered from the scene. Currently, the case is being investigated as a potential murder-suicide, but the Harvard police have said no final determination has been made, and their autopsies and toxicology tests are still pending. Brandon had turned 30 the day before they were found dead, and they were just a week shy of celebrating their first wedding anniversary. The Dumoviches had been married less than a year after a relationship that started in middle school and rekindled in 2022. Friends and family said Rachel and Brandon seemed inseparable and shared a love for travel, the outdoors, and quiet evenings with their dogs, Dash and Cedar. People are speculating about what happened because Brandon's obituary does not list Rachel as his wife, whereas her obituary does list him as her husband, but nothing is confirmed at this time. While there is speculation, the Harvard Police Department are investigating all possibilities and are determined to find out what happened to this young couple. So I will update you when we know more, and remember, don't speculate before we know what actually happened.
Happens when your best friend becomes your worst nightmare. This case will leave you questioning everything. In 2006, Tiffany Hall rushed into a hospital carrying a lifeless newborn, claiming a tragic premature birth. But when doctors wanted to examine her, she refused, raising suspicions. At the same time, the community was gripped by fear as a pregnant woman named Jamela Tunstall and her 3 young children went missing. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered disturbing truths that no one could have imagined. By the end of this video, you'll be left wondering, what truly drives someone to commit such unthinkable acts? For starters, Tiffany wasn't exactly a newcomer in Jamela Tunstall's life. They had known each other since they were little. calling each other sisters even though they weren't related by blood. Additionally, both girls grew up in the same neighborhood in East St. Louis, Illinois, and had a lot in common. Most people who knew them described them as quiet and a bit introverted, often hanging out together and finding comfort in each other's company amidst the ups and downs of their challenging lives. And boy, did they have challenging lives. Jamela faced a really tough childhood, moving from one foster home to another while trying her best to stay in school. It wasn't easy for her at all, but through the difficulties, she found a sense of belonging with Tiffany. They became close friends, and Tiffany understood Jamela in a way that others didn't. Meanwhile, Tiffany had her own battles to fight. By the time she turned 14, she was already making headlines for all the wrong reasons. She had gotten into trouble with the law and earned the label of a juvenile delinquent for kicking her mother. Her home life was just as chaotic, filled with strict curfews and rules she constantly broke. It seemed like she was always butting heads with her family. In fact, Tiffany's mother, Beverly Cruz, once told the St. Louis Post-Dispatch that Tiffany was quite the handful. She even recounted a wild story about how Tiffany had set their kitchen on fire when she was a teenager. Yet despite everything, both Tiffany and Jamela stuck together, creating a friendship that felt unbreakable. And just like how they found solace in each other, they also shared the experience of becoming mothers. At 16, Jamela welcomed her first child, a son named Demond, in 1999, and then had two more kids, Ivan in 2003 and Janella in 2004. Although she struggled at times, like when she lost custody of her kids for disciplining her eldest son with a belt, she fought hard to reclaim her family. After taking parenting classes, she got her children back, determined to turn her life around. She even bought a car with her tax refund and enrolled in community college, aspiring to become a photographer one day. On the other hand, Tiffany's journey was equally tumultuous when it comes to parenting. Just like Jamela, she became a mother at just 16, welcoming her first child into the world, followed by a second baby shortly after. But her life took a dark turn in 1999 when she lost custody of her daughters. Authorities discovered alarming evidence of severe abuse against her 2-month-old baby, painting a heartbreaking picture of neglect. Witnesses recalled seeing the infant in Tiffany's arms, limp like a rag doll, which raised immediate concerns. The injuries sustained that day would leave lasting consequences, and by the time the little girl turned 7, she still relied on diapers.
Have y'all been home all day?
All day.
Been to the grocery store. Have y'all heard anything over there? No.
Like today?
Does he live by himself or do you know?
A lady lives there. Lady lives there.
There's a man deceased in her yard.
He what? Yard?
Yeah, he's dead right there.
In her yard?
Yeah.
Oh, my
Is he black?
My daughter said she heard somebody arguing
Last night.
Last night?
They said, who you calling him? Call me another one. She said, Mama, it wasn't firecrackers. She said it was a gun.
Come here. You see his body?
Oh, talking about right here near the court?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This
So-
lady lives there with him.
I mean, she can't, that's the same lady that came.
She said her name is Nicole.
Nicole?
Oh, yeah.
Is she younger, older? Or?
She's younger than us, so I'm 43, so she might be in her early 30s, early to mid 30s. Oh, God. Who found him?
Some passerbys just come by. He's been there for a while. Neighbor across the road heard some arguments over here, and about 1 a.m. heard one shot. There's supposed to be a female that resides here by the name of Nicole. White female.
You know,
See if she's inside.
yes, we'll knock on the door and then see if it's unlocked, we can see can we do a welfare check.
Officers didn't know who Nicole was yet, but she would become a very familiar figure over the coming days. Without wasting any time, officers moved to search Daniel's home, and what they would find inside would soon blow the case wide open. But before we continue, it's worth noting that situations like these can be extremely distressing, not only for those directly involved, but also for anyone following along at home.
This is exactly why it's so important not to get tunnel vision when looking into a crime. In this photo is a woman named Linnell Barsock, and she was a nurse. And on June 16, 2010, she was found unalive inside the garage of where she was living. So she had been discovered by her friend Loren Austin. So Loren enters the garage and she tells authorities that she was supposed to go meet Linnell at the house in order to finish doing her hair. But when she entered the house, she immediately slipped and took a look at the floor to see what was on there. That's when she noticed a strange dark red liquid, and as she followed the trail, that's when she discovered Linnell's body. She said that she had basically discovered Linnell lying face up with a plastic bag covering her head. When police got to the crime scene, they discovered a few other things that didn't quite make sense. For example, they had discovered that Linnell's car was left with the trunk open, and inside they discovered bloody bedsheets. It was very obvious to them that whoever had done this had attempted to put Linnell into the car, but kind of just gave up in the middle of it. Now, while Loren was being interviewed by authorities at the police station, she also told them who she thought might have done this, and she quickly pointed the finger at Linnell's boyfriend named Louis. She then explains that while she was at the house discovering what was in the garage, she also heard footsteps inside. She took a quick look and immediately noticed that it was Louis who was in there. But not wanting to get caught in the chaos or whatever had just happened there, she decided to leave immediately. So obviously police started looking into their prime suspect, which was Louis at this point. And they discovered that him and Linnell had met at school where they were both taking separate courses. But unfortunately, their relationship was anything but picture perfect. There was a lot of turmoil and jealousy involved. Louis was known to often go through Linnell's phone, going through all of her text messages, calling numbers that he didn't recognize, and in some cases, he would even stalk her at work. So it became very obvious to authorities that Louis was a very jealous and controlling individual, and upon further investigation, they also discovered that authorities had been called to the couple's home for a domestic disturbance. And then on top of all of this, according to Linnell's own mother, she told authorities that she had attempted to break up with Louis just 1 month before she passed away. Obviously, this guy did not take this very well, and he had gotten into his car and followed her. And surprisingly, he pursued her so aggressively that day that he ended up running her off the road. So as the investigation and the interviews continued, Loren told authorities that her and Linnell had been best friends for about 10 years, and earlier that morning they had made plans for them to do each other's hair. When she got to the home that morning, everything was fine, and Louis even said that he was going to take his car to a repair shop. But Louis ended up finding out that Linnell was having a secret relationship with a guy named Ike. So when he returned back to the house around 11:30 a.m., obviously a very big fight broke up between the couple. Linnell didn't want to stay in the house anymore, so she decided to take Loren with her to a local shop to go get some more beauty products. And again, in a jealous-fueled rage, Louis decided to follow the two women and confronted Linnell one more time. Here is where he demanded that she hand over the secret cell phone that she was using to communicate with Ike. At this point, this was enough to calm down Louis, so he left the two girls alone. They then continued to shop, went to get some food, and then made their way back to the house. When they got back to the home, another fight ended up breaking out that made Loren extremely uncomfortable, so she said she decided to leave around 1:25 p.m. in order to give the couple some space. She then told authorities that she went to a nearby park to just hang out and watch kids play until approximately 6:30 p.m. When she went back to the house, that was when she discovered her friend's body in the garage. Police zeroed in on Louis very quickly. I mean, to them, it was quite obvious that he was the one that did this, except they were very shocked when they discovered that his alibi was actually true. He had been caught on CCTV footage doing exactly what he had told authority, which was going to multiple car shops in order to get different parts. But this whole story just got more confusing for authorities because they had also discovered a breakup letter that Linnell had written to Louis. In the letter, Linnell apparently said that she was leaving Louis for Ike because he makes more money and that she had been sleeping with him for the past 4 months. This, if it were true, would have obviously given Louis plenty of motive to do this to Linnell. But at this point, authorities started to get a very weird feeling about the case. Something just wasn't adding up. The first thing that they immediately noticed is that when Loren was at the police station at the same time as Linnell's mother, the two of them did not recognize each other. Now, according to the statement Loren had given authorities earlier on, her and Linnell had been childhood friends for about 10 years, so it was very odd to them that Linnell's own mother would not recognize her friend. They also said they found it very odd that she would just go outside and spend about 5 hours in the park under the sun in the heat doing nothing, waiting for the couple to stop arguing. They also ended up discovering 2 bullets that matched the exact weapon that was used to take Linnell's life inside of Loren's purse, not to mention the fingerprints and footprints found at the scene that ended up matching Loren. But what authorities really did not expect to discover is that Loren and Linnell had never been friends at all. In fact, the two women had only known each other for a few weeks. It would turn out that Linnell was actually bisexual and her and Loren had previously dated. But according to text messages that authorities would later discover, Linnell was just not that interested in Loren and had told her that although she did not see her as a romantic partner, she hoped that they would stay friends. It later became clear that Loren just did not take this well at all. And on that day when she was at Linnell's house doing her hair, she ended up shooting her in the back of the head. And although she did try to flee the country and head down to Belize, eventually she was caught, and in 2015 she was sentenced to serve 25 years in prison.
Look at me, ma'am. He keeps tiring. Ma'am, I told you once before. Let me please help you understand.
Because I can.
Well,
because I can. It's not a crime to smell.
It's not a crime.
Continue what you were saying.
But it doesn't help you, all right, to irritate people.
All right.
And you have a lot at stake in this case.
It's not a crime to smell, is it?
I didn't say you were committing.
Okay then.
I'm saying you're not helping yourself.
Continue what you were saying.
I'm
allowed to smell.
I would suggest you do what helps you, not what hurts you.
Okay.
That's
do what I want to do.
Well,
Let's
do
get
what
that
you want to
understood.
do. That's fine.
Let's get that understood.
I'm sorry?
Let's get that understood.
Well, you made that abundantly
continue what you
clear.
were saying about the motions.
Okay.
All right.
I'm saying I want to have a hearing on it, and we'll be happy to give you a date when we can come back and talk about that. Is there work we need to do to be ready for that hearing, or we basically have what work needs to be done?
Judge, we haven't received their motion.
But we haven't filed the petition yet, Judge. We wanted to have a date from Your Honor. We have some exhibits. Some of them may be lengthy, so we're trying to get all that.
I'm terribly sorry for the pain that you guys feel, but I cannot take responsibility.
This is a scene of a boy apologizing to the parents of the victim in court. Last year, 14-year-old Remy Cordoba was speeding in a car with his gang accomplices. When he was crossing the intersection, he collided with Pamela Cabrioli, who was driving normally. When the gang members traveling with him were cursing at Pamela, Cordoba, in an attempt to show off, pulled out the gun in his car and fired furiously at Pamela's vehicle. When the police arrived at the scene, 32-year-old Pamela had already lost her life, leaving only her young child crying beside her. After the police arrested Cordoba, he has been defending himself by claiming that he is a minor. When the judge convicted him in court, he filed an appeal and said to the family of the victim,
I'm not the monster or the murderer I have been painted to be by the Denver's District Attorney Office.
Ultimately, the judge rejected the appeal and sentenced him to life imprisonment as an adult. Do you think this verdict is appropriate? Welcome to leave your opinions.
She had this bizarre fascination with Jeffrey Dahmer. She was obsessed with him and then went on to commit such a terrible, brutal murder that the media called her Lady Dahmer. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it for you guys. This is a horrific case and definitely not the video that you're going to want to eat during while watching. Taylor Shabiznes, that was her real legal name. Taylor Shabiznes was born Taylor Coronado and was raised in Green Bay, Wisconsin. From the outside, Taylor appeared to have a very normal, happy childhood and family, but throughout this entire case, that proves to not be so true. Sadly, Taylor's mother was an alcoholic, and it was really, really bad. Well, when Taylor was only 11 years old, her father woke up to discover that her mother had died in her sleep from cirrhosis due to her alcoholism. And after her mother's death, Taylor was really just in a downward spiral. Her dad remarried very fast, and Taylor was just very angry. She was rebelling, she was acting out and abusing alcohol and substances. She had a boyfriend in school named Shad Tyrion, who will be very important later in this case, and eventually Taylor was even expelled from high school because she was starting fights so often. By 19 years old, Taylor was in full-on addiction. She was using the substance M, like Beth with an M. Taylor actually married her M dealer, a man named Warren Chabot. And after she was married and went to change her last name, instead of taking her husband's last name and being Taylor Chabot, she legally changed her name to Taylor Shabiznes. Taylor Shabiznes. And as you can imagine, this marriage was extremely toxic and Taylor was just continuing down this downward spiral. In July of 2020, Taylor was arrested for resisting arrest and also battery of a police officer. Only a few weeks later, she was caught in a high-speed chase with police and refused to pull over and was arrested again. Taylor was in a really bad place, and to make matters even worse, she was pregnant at this time while still using M. At 23 years old, she gave birth to a baby boy. Her husband was unfortunately arrested for dealing and was in jail. Taylor really wanted to turn her life around for her baby, so she moved in with her dad and allegedly even got clean. But then 3 really bad things happened back to back in Taylor's life. First, she lost custody of her baby, and then she found out that her husband had been cheating on her before he went to jail. And then her own father was arrested for SAing a 13-year-old girl that was a relative of his wife, and he was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Taylor's business was in a really bad, dark place, and she unfortunately relapsed and started using M again. She reconnected with her old high school boyfriend, Shad, who was also sadly using M at this time, so Taylor and Shad would use together and hook up. On February 22nd, 2002, Taylor and Shad were out partying and using with friends, and by all accounts, it was a normal, fun night. At some point, just Taylor and Shad went back to where Shad lived. He lived at home with his mom, and they kept using M and hooking up down in the basement. According to Taylor, Shad really liked it when she held him here on his neck while they were hooking up. Shad was wearing a chain, so she got on top of him and was pulling on the chain to restrict his breath until Shad was unconscious. Now, both of them were very much not sober. They had used a lot of substances that evening, not just M, so they were like using a combination, like a cocktail of really hard substances. Does that change anything? Does that excuse Taylor's actions, what she does next? I don't think so, but let me know your thoughts. So while Taylor is pulling on this chain that is around his neck, she said that it was really fun and cool to watch Shad's face turn colors. It went red, and then it went purple, and then it went blue. She kept pulling on the chain harder and harder. At one point, she said she watched Shad cough up blood, and then she said she could even feel his heart stop beating. And she actually said that this excited her, and she kept going and even pulled harder on the chain. And when Taylor realized that Shad was dead, that she just killed him, she wasn't upset, she wasn't freaking out, she had no remorse, no emotion. She actually SA'd his body after realizing he was dead for hours. She actually said that she was playing with his body. She then took a nap, and then when she woke up, she decided she wanted to take Shad's body home with her. So she planned to cut him into pieces in the basement of his own mother's home. But while his family slept, she snuck up upstairs into the kitchen and she grabbed sharp kitchen instruments. First, Taylor took Shad's head and she put his head in a bucket, and then she cut off his manhood and also put it in the bucket. And then Taylor took a second nap, and then when she woke up, she cut Shad in half long ways, and then began putting pieces of him into different bags and containers and boxes. And she was still using substances throughout this entire process because she ended up being in Shad's basement for over 24 hours, and she was actually hallucinating at one point and believed that Shad's arm kept regrowing. Like she would cut it off and then it would regrow, and it happened multiple times. And when Taylor finally decided that she was going to go home, she brought pieces of Shad with her, but she forgot the bucket that had Shad's head and manhood in it. So tragically, it was Shad's mother that found his head. She found her son's head in the basement of her own home. She told investigators that her son was in the basement with his ex-girlfriend from high school, Taylor Shabusiness. So officers went to her apartment and they found her minivan in the parking lot, and there was blood on the outside of the minivan. Taylor's clothes and hands were also covered in blood, but Taylor had a fresh, full face of makeup, so she gave herself a full beat after everything I just told you that she did to Shad. And in her minivan, they found a leg and a foot. At the station, Taylor did confess, and she had an extremely bizarre interrogation. She just did not act the way you would expect a person to act. Taylor also couldn't explain why she did what she did. She said that she liked killing him, that it was exciting, that the entire thing was actually really exciting, and to check her undergarments if you wanted to see how exciting it was and how excited it got her. Taylor Schabusiness's trial was watched by so many people because no one could believe that any of this was real. Taylor's defense was that she was not guilty by reason of insanity, that long-term substance abuse literally changed her brain. During her trial, Taylor was seen laughing, like a lot. Also, completely out of nowhere, she got up and attacked her lawyer. One of the most infamous parts about this entire trial was the inclusion of Taylor Schabusiness's obsession with serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. She would lay in bed and take selfies with a photo of him next to her. She also made multiple internet searches regarding Jeffrey Dahmer, like Jeffrey Dahmer's butt and Jeffrey Dahmer walking all sexy into court. And because of how brutal and horrific her murder was and her obsession with Jeffrey Dahmer, the media actually coined her Lady Dahmer. It took the jury 1 hour to come back with guilty of all charges, and she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And this has been slightly controversial. It was even a bit controversial that she was even deemed competent to stand trial in the first place, but let me know all of your thoughts. I'm extremely heartbroken for Shad and his family. No one deserves to die like that, and no mother should ever have to find her baby like that. So definitely let me know all your thoughts in the comments, but while you're there, please make sure that you're respectful, because you have no idea who could be in the comment section reading. Someone that knew and loved Shad could be there, so please just be respectful. And while you're there, please let me know what case you want to see me cover next. Thank you to everyone that suggested that I covered this case. Have you ever heard of Taylor Schabusiness? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys all next time in my next video. Please be a good person to your fellow person.
Here's where we are in present day in the disturbing case of Jessica Chambers, the girl who was burned alive. On December 6, 2014, a first responder showed up to the site of a car fire and saw something that would scar him for life. A few feet away from the car was a body engulfed in flames walking towards him with their arms stretched out. He said it was like something from a horror movie. This was Jessica Chambers, a 19-year-old cheerleader. She'd suffered severe burns to over 90% of her body, and somehow she was still alive. The EMT was asking her who did this, and they said that it sounded like she was saying something like Derek or Eric. But the damage around her mouth was so bad and her body was so burned that she couldn't move to form words. A flammable liquid had been poured down her throat and up her nose. She was in so much pain but pushed through to see her mom before she passed. And her mom actually told her that if she needed to pass on, it was okay. People began searching for a culprit because who could do something so evil? The autopsy showed that there was bruising to her chest area, indicating a possible SA. Maybe the person thought they strangled her and set both her and the car on fire to destroy evidence, only they didn't realize that Jessica was still alive. This footage is the last time she was ever seen before getting set on fire. Around 5:30 p.m., she went to a gas station around 1.5 miles from where she was found. She also briefly spoke to her mom on the phone, and her mom said that she sounded kind of distant. It almost felt like someone else was there. And at 7:30 p.m., her cell phone data shows her driving to the area where she would later be found. As people started to look for someone named Derek or Eric, a jogger found her keys in the grass. The police tested the DNA and it came back to a man named Killẽrs. Quentin initially said that he was only with Jessica that morning, but after police showed him cell phone location data that put him with her at 7 p.m. that night, he said that he got a friend to pick him up. Fact-checking this, police discovered that friend was out of town. Text messages showed that he made several romantic advances towards Jessica, which she rebuffed. And they had to find these texts on Jessica's phone because Quentin had deleted all traces of communication that he had with her after her death. Super sketch. He also had gas cans in his garage, but it's a garage. So Quentin was charged in Jessica's case, but the trial was a mess. Who was Derek or Eric? People were really focused on this and couldn't let it go. A speech pathologist testified that her throat was probably too damaged to form words. And it's also possible that through all the trauma, Jessica didn't know what was going on. A prosecutor even allegedly asked a witness to say that Jessica had nicknamed Quentin Eric. And this is a huge no. Quentin was tried in her case twice, but both trials ended in a deadlock. But immediately after the second trial, Quentin was taken into custody for a second case. This was for the murder of Ming Chen Sao, and she was found in her apartment on August 8th, 2015. Police believed the 34-year-old had been brutally stabbed around 30 times. Authorities believed that the perpetrator did this over and over again until she finally confessed her PIN to her debit card, which Quentin Tellis was later caught using. Both Ming Chen and Quentin's phones called her bank that night, and Quentin's was the one that gained access to the account using the PIN. Quentin did admit to using her debit card fraudulently, but he said that it was given to him by a group of men. And infuriatingly, the murder charges in Ming Chen's case were dropped, and Quentin was only charged with using her debit card, and he was sentenced to 10 years in prison, which he's currently serving. But being connected to two different women who died in extremely graphic ways. That is a very strange coincidence. He was sentenced to 10 years, and I believe he'll be released in 2026. As of right now, there's no solid answers in Jessica's case and no justice. But if prosecutors want to put together a clean trial with clear evidence, they will have the chance to do this once Quentin's released for serving for credit card fraud.
Every clip you've seen is more than a story. It's proof that reality bleeds darker than fiction. If these crimes haunted you, don't stay silent. Subscribe to stand with those who remember. Like to keep their stories alive. Share to spread the truth. And comment, what part still chills you? Or who do you think really did it?